more this industry of ours marches on, the more we revisit the same old standbys again and again. A new generation has now taken flight, and with it, a flock of new IPs ready to make a name for themselves. As the current gen becomes the last gen, we'd like to honor the fresh franchises that were born in and have come to define the last 8 years of epic gaming. Some were not complete strangers, but old friends in a new guise, while others will always be synonymous with this 7th generation that's soon to be in the history books. These are the big names that all the newly announced properties will have to live up to.
Unless we make a stand, here and now, we gonna die.
Nintendo sold millions of customers on their new Wii console by demonstrating the promise of motion controls with the Wii Sports series. This simple and approachable game put Wiimotes in the hands of kids, seniors, and everyone in between. They golfed, boxed, played tennis, and of course, they bowled. Nintendo set a high bar for success that could only be matched by a sequel, Wii Sports Resort, which added new activities like swordplay and archery, as well as the Motion Plus controller add-on. With over 100 million copies sold, the Wii Sports series is in the company of Call of Duty when it comes to numbers. With the Big N having moved beyond Waggle and on toward the tablet, Wii Sports may well have been the alpha and omega of motion control.
You didn't think it would be easy, did you?
The idea of putting Batman in a video game is not a recent thing, but the idea of that game not completely sucking bat balls is. The Dark Knight's triumphs are not just limited to comic book games, but any licensed material ever shoehorned into the interactive medium. Even without the cape and cowl to hide behind, the Arkham series is still one of the more refined examples of the stealth, the action-adventure, or the open-world game. Its counter-heavy style of combat has snuck into other current-gen releases, the voice acting is impeccable from Mark Hamill's Joker to the thug on a random street corner, and it has some of the best collectibles and Easter eggs in the business. Now that we may be getting annual installments, Arkham could continue to raise the bar for years to come. Sure, Mario's been around for decades, but the franchise entered a new chapter with the arrival of Super Mario Galaxy and its sequel. Crazy new power-ups like the ability to fly around as a bee, roll around as a giant rock, create clouds to reach new heights, and ride around on Yoshi in 3D were just the tip of the iceberg. What sold us was the new focus on gravity that altered the core platforming experience, delivering a new type of Mario game none of us could have imagined. Getting 2 3D Mario games in one generation was a special treat, one we hope Nintendo repeats on the Wii U.
Oh no. No. You got a better idea, I'm all ears.
Today, Uncharted may be synonymous with PlayStation, as Naughty Dog solidified their presence with Sony over the years on the PS3, growing from the developer that made Crash Bandicoot to a prized first-party powerhouse and with coveted exclusive titles. The first Uncharted certainly showcased the PS3's hardware and established memorable characters. However, with the release of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, Nathan Drake and company struck gold. From playable cinematic moments that left gamers wary of setting down their controllers to incredible Hollywood-caliber performances, Uncharted 2 was an action shooter that left critics and gamers awestruck. For people who weren't gamers, the Uncharted franchise was a showcase of where games are headed, a possible blend of cinema and playability that are as fun to watch as they are to play.
Enrichment Center regulations require both hands to be empty before any cake.
Back when Valve released the Orange Box, the highlight was on the new Half-Life 2 episode and long-awaited Team Fortress 2. A small puzzle game called Portal ended up turning the most heads. Portal's physics-based riddles and dimensional mechanics cemented it as a keeper, but it was the humor and twisted script that turned Portal into a pop culture phenomenon. The reign of Portal's dark and deadpan commentator GLaDOS continued with a lengthy sequel. Clever puzzles and memorable characters like Wheatley and Cave Johnson propelled Portal 2 to the top of many Game of the Year lists. Despite the promise of cake, Portal continues to influence games years later, while every Aperture Lab rat still mourns their beloved companion cube.
Now, we have run into a reproducible human error problem. A lot of expensive equipment getting broken.
No tomorrow, no tomorrow.
Just 1 year after the launch of the Xbox 360, Epic Games released the grim and moody Gears of War, which not only showcased the true horsepower of the console, but also the prowess of the Unreal Engine 3, ushering in an age of decayed beauty. Though Gears didn't invent cover-based shooting, it sure did popularize it with a rock-solid system. Also being the original bearer of the Horde mode multiplayer game type, just goes to show how much this generation was defined by the Gears of War series. Chainsaws and curb stomps are the champagne and caviar of this generation.
Are of the undead, forever without hope, forever without light.
The Soul knows neither ancestry nor publisher, so with Dark Souls and Demon Souls, the very twin humanities being so intrinsically intertwined, we're calling it a franchise, so deal with it. The series continues to offer punishing difficulty, deep mysteries, and a dose of obfuscation that has thwarted many an undead hero, and it's all the better for it. An intricate shield and wield, it proposed a secret new genre, teetering on the skeletal form of stat-driven RPGs, action-filled dungeon romps, and pure melee combat with ripostes and stamina systems. A unique online structure imports both threats and delights from other players, while pulling off the epic scope and detail of a single-player quest, along with the best emergent bits of an MMO. The Soul's presence is undeniable, though its own amalgamation of form and function seem to reflect more on the future of games than on its current peers.
Adam improved every aspect of man except his character.
Beautiful and twisted, the warped allegories that echo through the avenues of the sunken cities and floating cathedrals are a haunting, tremendous reminder of what the human imagination can accomplish. There's a hint of Jules Verne, but Bioshock bolsters its own genre punditry with a touch of hard science and moral cavities. Powers and guns graduate to bewitching companions and quantum conundrums, as the power of set dressing compels you to scour every container to the point of being ridiculous. Yes, it's brazenly a video game, one that shows commercial and critical success are, of course, not mutually exclusive, but that also adding a dash of thought and an iota of philosophy can make a shooter worthy of doctrine, dogma, and discussions.
Heads.
Or tails.
Come on, let me through. Heads.
Or tails.
I'm done being patient. Give me a name or I'll cut your balls off and sell them to a Krogan.
Say what you will about its controversial third act, but there's no overlooking the service record of this definitive sci-fi space odyssey. A radical departure from the Dungeons, Dragons, and dice rolls of BioWare's past, Mass Effect redefined the notion of what a role-playing game could be. From its unique blend of shooting and storytelling to the decision-intensive travails of your personalized Commander Shepard, it has not only achieved the remarkable feat of holding the attention of gamers for an entire console generation, but also somehow finding a way to make the RPG sexy again, delivering BioWare's first real blockbuster in the truest sense, as well as one of the most memorable video game franchises in recent memory.
They took our land.
Every pick on this list has 2 or 3 titles under their belt, where Assassin's Creed has 5, not counting any of its handheld efforts or the steadily approaching Black Flag. Gamers have been putting overtime into the Animus this generation, and it shows. Parkour, only tested in the previous gen by Extreme Sports Games or Ubisoft's own Prince of Persia, is now the cornerstone of other big names like Infamous, Prototype, Crackdown, Mirror's Edge, Brink, and the recent Remember Me, not to mention next-gen beauties like Watch Dogs and Titanfall. The Creed has also arguably evolved the most out of any new franchise of the era, starting with the flawed but fruitful first installment, and later stretching its wings across the American frontier and the endless horizon of the Atlantic Ocean. It's one of the earliest and most successful franchises in the last 8 years, and we'll always remember, this was the generation that created it.
I can't remind your eyes, your face.